Thank you for tuning in to the Ultimate Coach podcast, a companion to the transformative book, The Ultimate Coach, written by Amy Hardison and Alan D. Thompson. Each conversation is designed to be a powerful wake-up call, reminding us of what's possible for you and your life. So if you're on a journey to expand your state of being, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to the Ultimate Coach podcast. I'm your host, Ipek Williamson, and today I'm excited to introduce you to Melanie Waite, a passionate holistic health educator who has dedicated her life to empowering others in their journey towards self-love and well-being. Melanie's story is one of transformation, unlocking internal resources, and embracing radical self-love. She also has a unique and beautiful connection with Steve Hardison that began when she was just 8 years old. So let's dive into her inspiring journey. Welcome, Melanie. How are you today?
Oh, I'm really good. Really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Melanie, let's begin with the life-changing experience you had as a little girl. When I heard that story, it touched me so deeply. So could you share that story with us and how it shaped your view of yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So this experience I could speak to for hours, but I'm going to do a mega condensed version. So when I was 5, I had an experience at school where the girls that I wanted to play with didn't want to play with me. And my brain couldn't understand why this was. And it looked for all sorts of reasons as a 5-year-old little brain. And after a few different sort of trial and errors with my brain picking out certain things to explain why they didn't want to play with me, it landed on a realization that my legs, especially my knees and my thighs, were a lot bigger than the other girls who I wanted to play with. And it was at that point that I created this belief that my legs needed to change, and they couldn't change because they were the legs that I'd been given. And I carried that perspective of something needs to change about me in order for X to happen. So that was the origins of it when I was 5. And I carried it through my entire life up until May of last year without even consciously realizing that I was doing it. So as I rehearsed and as I repeated that narrative to myself, it created its own life almost, and it morphed relative to my circumstance. So if I was interested in guys and I wanted this guy to like me, there would be a justification as to why he didn't like me based on who I am. Physically, typically, sometimes mentally and personality-wise. If I didn't get a certain job or something wasn't going how I wanted it to go in life, my brain would pull it a self-criticism. And then in May, as you said, I've sort of had a lifetime of, I had a lifetime of interacting with Steve. And in May, he created this perfect situation where I could see exactly how this story came about, exactly how I attributed this dislike for my legs based on the experience I had as a 5-year-old, and how that belief had how I'd cemented that belief and had it massively impact who I've been being in life. So that was at the Ultimate Coach Birmingham experience. It wasn't actually during the event, it was afterwards. But it was that weekend with the help of 5 other guys, 4 of whom are actively involved in the Ultimate Coach group. I could see that all my body had ever been doing throughout my entire life was serving me unconditionally. And I had been vilifying myself. And it's, as you can hear in my voice, it's still a very emotional thing that I would spend so many years, 52 years, vilifying myself when all my body was doing was just functioning as it had been built to function in the most beautiful, service-orientated way. So yes, Steve is just phenomenal in my mind at creating an experience where I could, if I wanted to, I could have hidden and not really followed his lead and his love to discover exactly where the origins were. But knowing that he is ultimate love, service, kindness, I just metaphorically took his hand, actually literally, for a bit of that experience. And I just followed him down that path. And since then, it's been absolutely transformational for me. So transformational. I think I wore shorts every day last summer. And that's never been the case. That's never been the case.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And Melanie, when we were in Arizona last month, you and 4 other gentlemen from the audience, you demonstrated that experience. It was so powerful. And that's what made me think of having you as my guest, because as a woman, I know that your story speaks to so many people, and not only even women. If you can remember, some of those gentlemen also mentioned that they had self-conscious thoughts about how they looked. Some other people shared too. So it was so really profound experience.
Thank you, Ipek. And just to follow on from that, without those guys, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as impactful, because although I'm married and I love being married, I love my husband, you're completely committed to him. Just physically, the way that it worked was I was standing in my swimming costume in front of the 4 guys in the Ultimate Coach group. So Matt, Damien, Tom and Ralph, Steve, and then this other gentleman who was a stranger. And if I hadn't been standing in front of those men, those 6 men, it would not have had the same amount of impact for me. So yeah, it was a phenomenal experience for me. Yeah.
Thank you. And you know that you are an expert in holistic health and healing. Do you think all that experience from your childhood had impact on choosing this path for yourself?
I do, Ipek. Yeah, I think that my body image and that was a poorly constructed sentence, or leading on. So many of the experiences that I declined as a teenager, as a young adult, as a 30-something. I got married at 38. And so there were lots of opportunities for me to observe people. I was asked out on quite a lot of dates. I had boyfriends and I didn't have boyfriends. And every decision I can consciously remember was shaped by what was going on in my head that stemmed back to that experience, including what I would eat, how much I would exercise. Sometimes there were periods in my life when I became obsessive about certain things. And although I never became anorexic, I was definitely hurtling myself down that path. And so, of course, that shaped what I ate, when I ate, if I didn't eat. And I think that then had me look at my body and how it works and what's nutritious and what isn't nutritious amongst all the, so I'd have clarity thinking and then dysfunctional thinking.
Was it maybe you were recommending things to your clients that you believed for them, but not for yourself? Did that happen with you?
Yeah. So, well, I think I've been a hypocrite all my life. I think I still not struggle, but I think I'm still in that camp. And it's not as if I'm trying to be a hypocrite. I believe the things that I'm saying. I endorse the things I'm saying. Sometimes I do the things I'm saying. I'm acting in that way of being. And then sometimes I'm the complete opposite. And I will then check myself and just sort of say, Mel, what's going on here? You know this, such that. And then you're doing or you're being this. Then I sit within myself now, although I didn't in the past always. And as soon as I notice it, I try to be really kind to myself rather than self-judgmental and critical. Whereas in the past, I would be critical and vilify myself for being the hypocrite that I was being.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the reason why I asked you this, not because to put you on the spot, but it is happening for me too in some ways. For example, when I'm with a client, I feel like I'm saying, do what I say, don't do what I do. Because sometimes I catch myself, I recommend things to people and turn around and not implement them in my own life. We are human. As you said, I do the practice of I forgive myself for judging myself.
Yeah.
And continue.
Yeah. And just as you were saying that, I was thinking of the value of repetition and of exposing ourselves again and again and again to people or to information that's reinforcing the way of being that we are aspiring to be. So for people who've got a document about themselves as to who they are being, and they're becoming that being. And so sometimes when I have clients and I'm speaking these things and I clock in myself, well, Mel, you didn't actually do that. I can now look at that more as a reminder of, okay, this is the path that you want to be on. This is why you're exposing yourself to this repetition, Mel. And then that has me feel more gratitude for my client, because their question has helped me to remind myself. It's like, oh, Mel, this is what you wanted to do or be or something.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I know you spoke about unlocking internal resources and embracing radical self-love. But I want to ask you, what is your definition of radical self-love? What does it mean to you?
Oh, my word, that's an amazing question. I have never consciously thought of defining it in a succinct way. Right here and now, it would mean that I never have the urge to criticize myself. I don't have children. I have nieces and nephews, and I have grandchildren. I have stepkids, but they were all adults when I married my husband. So when I think of my nieces and nephews, who are just priceless to me, and I think of them when they're just when they were young, they're older kids or adults now. And when I think of them when they were really young, and they were just, well, they still are, just bundles of love to me. Absolute pure love. And it didn't matter what they did. They were still pure love. And if I was looking after them, my role is to ensure they didn't get hurt, and then hopefully help them to have a really fun and maybe educational time with their aunt or whatever it was. And so radical self-love for me is to have that way that I see them and transpose that onto me, and have that tenderness and that kindness and that unconditional love, that it doesn't matter what I do, I'm learning, I'm progressing, I'm always a student. I'm like a child that's journeying through this life. And every moment that I engage is an educational moment. It's a learning moment. It's an experiential moment. And to just interact with myself like I would with them. Never scold, never call them names, anything like that.
So can we say then radical self-love has so much also radical self-forgiveness in it?
Oh, yes, that's good. Yes. I love that, Ipek. Yes, constantly.
So as a person who's working with holistic health and healing, what are a couple of tools that you find yourself recommending or using the most with your clients?
Yeah. So nothing new, it will be nothing that you haven't heard before. Meditation, huge. And I find that my clients, they have different relationships with meditation. So some people are just 100% all in, and other people are really hesitant and skeptical. And so having a discussion about the entry point of meditation, that's a massive, massive one. And then small changes, just things that are incrementally just almost insignificant in a person's life, yet they're moving that person in the direction that the person has stated they wanted to go. And the point of that is not just a practical shift, it's also a self kind of feel-good shift. That if a person can do something really small, it can impact their psyche in a dramatic way, a way that you wouldn't even imagine can be impacted. Yeah, those are two things I would say. Yeah.
Well, as a meditation teacher myself, of course, I 1000% agree with you. Meditation changes lives.
Yeah.
And also the small changes reminded me of the Kaizen concept, 1% changes in life.
Yes. It's really compounds. I think it was Quran, or actually maybe it wasn't, but someone at one of the ultimate experiences, I've been to 3 now, talked about that, the compound effect.
Yes.
Yeah. Massive.
Well, now I want to ask you, because I'm really curious about this story. How did you meet with Steve Hardison when you were 8 years old? Can you tell us that story and how that connection impacted your life from that time to now?
Oh my goodness. I have sat and I thought on numerous occasions, what my family's life, and I'm talking about my siblings and my parents when I say my family in this regard, what would our lives be like if Steve had not made that decision to go on a mission? Because that was how my family met him. So he was assigned to the London South mission. So he was serving in the south of England, which is where I lived. I grew up. And he was a missionary who knocked on my mum and dad's door, him and his companion. They go round in twos. They knocked on my mum and dad's door. In fact, it was even more miraculous than that. They were in the neighbouring town, I think a few days earlier or a week earlier, something like that. And Steve was talking to people on the street. Missionaries do that. They call it street contacting. They just stand on the street and then they stop people who are walking by. And so Steve did that, and he got speaking to a gentleman whom he can't remember. At least I don't think he can remember his name. I don't know him at all. And he had quite a conversation with this guy. And this guy said, please come round to my house, or yes, you can come round to my house. And then Steve got his address of him. And then Steve had a technique of having a bit more of a conversation and then double checking the address with the person, because there are a lot of people who give a false address. So he did that, and the gentleman gave him the same address that he'd given him the first time. And it wasn't his address. It was my mum and dad's address. And so Steve and his companion, they come round, they knock on the door expecting to meet this gentleman. And my dad answered the door. And one thing led to another. That evening, it was at evening time. That evening, my parents asked the missionary, Steve, and his companion to come back later or another day, which they did. That was in the beginning of November. And then my parents joined the LDS church in the June. So Steve had come round for several months. I think missionaries they're in an area for a certain amount of time and then they're moved on, and they have no control over that. And Steve, I think, was there until the beginning of January. So he was seeing my mum and dad, and I remember him coming to our home several times a week for almost, what would that be? All of them, or 2 months. All of a good 2 months. As an 8-year-old, which is what I was then, I remember him. Don't remember loads of details, but I do remember specifically, and please tell me if I'm going into too much detail. I remember on New Year's Eve, Steve and his missionary companion babysat, so my mum and dad could go out to a church New Year's Eve party. That was against the Mormon rules, the rules for missionaries, as he is. And Steve, at that early age of 19, 20, he had the ability to surpass or to look through rules if the looking through of that rule or discarding that rule or just pushing that rule to the side would be more beneficial than actually keeping the rule. So he knew that my parents needed socializing with this other couple. So they're out doing their socializing, enjoying life, getting to know more about the church and this other couple. And Steve and his companion were babysitting myself, my brother, who was 2 years older, and my youngest brother, who was almost 2 at the time. And it was that evening that Steve told us that he would be leaving. He was going to be moved on. And that would be the last time that we would see him as coming around to our house. It didn't end up being the last time, but that was my first experience of feeling a loss. I have had the most beautiful home life ever. And I remember coming down on New Year's Day and going into the dining room where Steve and my brothers and the companion had sat and eaten dinner. And I could smell Steve's aftershave on the chair that he sat on. And I just felt this, as an 8-year-old, this sense of loss. And it wasn't until I experienced my next sense of loss in life that my brain thought, okay, this is part of a regular, this is life. People come, people go. But who Steve was as that lovely missionary who would come several times a week and just hang out and play with us and obviously have conversations with my mum and dad really impacted my being then as an 8-year-old. So then Steve finishes his mission. I grow up. One of Steve's companions is my now husband. So one of the missionaries who Steve was companion with, who taught my mum and dad, is Paul, my husband. So Steve knocking on the door with the wrong address brought Paul into my life, brought my 4 stepkids, brought my grandkids, Paul's extended family. What else has impacted? Oh, my mum and dad had 3 kids at the time. And then by Steve knocking on their door and what transpired after that, my younger brother and sister were born, and I can't imagine life without them. My sister has 4 kids, an amazing husband. That's all come from Steve. My May experience, the ultimate coach experience. We've hung out as a couple. We've hung out with Steve and Amy quite a few times. Priceless, just fun times. I could go on. I don't know. I could go on and on. So many things. My confidence to become an entrepreneur. I went to college in America for a couple of semesters. Just so many things, like spiritual things, physical things, friendship, confidence, the belief I was a client. I was a client of Steve's for a while. And again, I can't remember the specifics that he said. What I remember and I've used and pulled into my life so many times is the things that he said about who I am. The things like, there's nothing that you can't do, Mel. There's nothing that I've done that you can't do. You're phenomenal. You're incredibly intelligent. You're beautiful. I mean, just things that when a person's feeling low, like when I sometimes feel low, I forget. My brain pushes those things into the back of my mind. And Steve has always interacted with me in terms of those attributes, always. And every time I see him, I'm with him, I hear about him, I engage in reading the book myself, those thoughts just flood into the foreground of my mind. And it's very, very powerful. I have so much to be grateful to Steve for. And then, of course, everything that shaped his life and all of the people that have been in his life to help to shape him to who we are. Because we're never in isolation, are we? Where it's like, it might have funneled, for me, it might have funneled through Steve, but yeah, we're community. Can't have Steve without that whole community, but nonetheless, yeah, phenomenal man. So grateful.
Yeah, listening to you, I was thinking of the book, The Butterfly Effect.
Yes, and remembering where it came from. That's important for me as well, to be just, remembering and recalling that source of, I've got so much out of the various books I've read, and not least the Ultimate Coach book. And so, yeah, when I say stuff, sometimes I find myself speaking something and I just think, whoa, where did that come from? That was so inspired. And then my brain thinks, well, that's come from all of the experiences. And then it's for me to just send out that gratitude of thank you, everyone who was impacted and is impacting my life, because that's where that came from. But this person who's sitting in front of me, and I've been the recipient of that so many times. People just staying or just being. Those guys that are in the jacuzzi that helped me to see my legs, they were just being themselves. That's it. Amazing, just by being themselves. It was amazing. Nothing special, just, yeah.
So amazing experience, really. I would like to ask you, if someone just beginning their journey of self-love and healing, what advice would you offer them?
That's another really good question. Sometimes, depending on, and I'm saying this from my experience, depending on where my experience with me and also with clients, depending on where someone's at, it's too big of a step for them to find something that they love about themselves, where they're at mentally or psychologically, where their psyche's sitting. It's too much. And so if a person is in that place, it's finding a something that they have done that day that they executed to a level of satisfaction. And it could be something like they got out of bed. They successfully got out of bed, or they successfully brushed their teeth, or they had a shower, or, just, again, it's just like a small thing. It's something that their psyche can clock that they did, or that they actioned, even though, of course, we're never completely doing it ourselves, because there's so many different forces that go into play with something simple like getting out of bed. In fact, as I'm saying that, I remember distinctly when I first realized how complex the most simple tasks are was when my dad was weeks away, just literally a couple of weeks away from transitioning, and I was watching him pick up a spoon with some food on, and he could not bring it to his mouth. He was trying to bring it to his mouth. And it had me think, there is nothing simple about anything that we physically execute in this life. It is so complex. And so having someone find a something, and it could be if someone's more not advanced, but further along the path of feeling good about themselves, it could be something really, maybe a little bit more, people might say impactful, like maybe they got an A in a class that they really wanted to get an A in. So they've moved from getting out of bed successfully to studying and getting the grade that they wanted, or something like that. But yeah, something that's just as the person feel that sense of accomplishment.
So what I'm hearing is the power of celebrating even the small successes, small steps in the right direction.
Yeah. I think that is absolutely fundamental to who we are being in our life. I think I don't know if it's, well, I was going to say, I don't know if it's just me, but I know that it's not me because of the people that I speak with. It's quite common for people's thinking to shift them into the pattern of what's absent, what they haven't achieved, what they wanted to achieve that they're aware of that they haven't, and then look at that in some form of self-degrading way. And so anything that can have someone shift to the opposite side of that, the half empty, half full thing, which is just, when I see versions of that all the time, and I'm very flippant with it sometimes. I just dismiss it. But see, that for me, that's who Steve is. He speaks to me always as if I'm the most phenomenal Melanie that ever there was. And Paul does that too. I can have fat days, thin days. I feel like I haven't accomplished days. I feel like I've done the most that I ever could in a day. And Paul will always love me in the same way. Like there's never any scolding. There's never any, why didn't you do this? And Steve is the exact same. And it's just, sometimes I just stand there when Paul's talking with me, or when I see Steve and the way he hugs me, and I'm in awe of that level of unconditional love. And that is the thing that, in my experience, propels people to then move forward in whatever area they want to move forward with. It's not advice, it's not coercion, it's not the setting a goal with them or anything like that. It's that unconditional love that has them then tap into that's inside of them. And that is the fuel that shifts them in whatever way they're focused to shift.
If only we all would be able to give that much unconditional love to ourselves, right?
Yes. And that's why I think it's so amazing that we have this community, because this community is full of people, in my experience, who are moving at an accelerated rate down that path. And then they interact and they share themselves from that place. And yeah, everyone falls short. We know that. People, I mess up all the time. And there's so much forgiveness and there's so much space. And then let's re-engage. Let's pick up the book. Let's read it again. Let's remind ourselves. Your podcasts, phenomenal. They're phenomenal, yours and Meredith's, because that's, for me, you interview people who are on that path. And when I listen to those people and listen to your carefully structured questions, I get these reminders for 90 minutes, an hour, however long it is. It's like, oh, love this. It's like an adrenaline rush. So I get a physical workout when I go to the gym, and I get the same level of energy when I listen to your podcasts or go to like Arizona, the Ultimate Coach Experience, the one in Birmingham. It's that fuel.
Thank you. I receive those beautiful words about the podcast lovingly and with much gratitude. So now we are at the part of the podcast where I will ask you the question I ask everyone. As you know, there are some questions on the Ultimate Coach book, some at the back of the book and some at the beginning before you begin part.
Yes.
From those questions, which one resonates with you the most at this point in your life and why?
Okay. So the one for me right now, and I've got this on my desk, is one I looked at. I look at the book in the morning and I feel the one that is resonating with me. So who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? That's the one that resonates with me the most right this second or today. And the reason why is because when I read that, the questions this morning, and I read that one, I had the thought come into my mind, are you actively looking for miracles every day, Melanie? Are you actively looking for miracles? I have a perspective that miracles are all around us all the time. And I have to tune in. I don't have to. If I tune in to the possibility of miracles, then I see them. And I love miracles. I love them. I want more of them. So that's the one, is like, I want to tune in more to the possibility of miracle and be open to whatever form those miracles can be. So that was another thought that came to my mind. Don't have a prescribed format for these miracles, Mel.
Wow, I love this because I want to share something that I shared at many platforms. Many people might have heard me saying this, but every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is opening my arms up to the universe and asking, universe, what gifts do you have for me today? And I do that really energized way, which raises my vibrations, my energy, my frequency. And before I go to sleep at night, I look back for that day and think about what were the miracles I've seen this day, today, and go over the miracles that has happened. And yes, I see even small things as miracles, but the more we start to focus on what might be a miracle, the more we start to see. You see, like, it doesn't have to be big things. We start to see and feel gratitude even for smaller things that made a difference in our day, in our lives. So I'm so glad you chose that question. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was beautiful, Ipek. I loved what you just said there. So beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
And now I'm going to ask you the 3 rapid fire questions.
Oh, fun.
So the first one is, first job ever. What was it? And what did you learn from it?
Shoe shop. I worked in a shoe shop. And what did I learn from it? I didn't want to work there for the rest of my life. I learned that people are very different. And if I wanted to keep my job, I can't react to, I was young, I can't react to people who are angry or mean, or I have to find a way to be professional I think I was 15 at the time, or be more appropriate. Yeah.
Had a big life experience, though, for a 15-year-old. It's beautiful. You must have learned so much about human beings.
Yeah. I learned I wanted to earn more money. I was cycling to the train station and then getting the train to the next town. And I didn't want to do that when I was older. I wanted to have a really nice, reliable car. Learned that. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question is, if you weren't in your current practice, what would you be doing, you think?
Okay. So that definitely changes from day to day, depending on what I'm engaged in. Right now, there's a big area of my life where I'm presenting facts in order to get a result that will support my mum. So I'd be a lawyer. Over the last several months, I've thought, if I had legal training, I think I would be much more adept at this whole kind of research, collating information, presenting information, not being so verbose. So right now, I would like that. However, in the past, maybe like 3 or 4 months ago, or a bit longer, it would have been medical. Because I remember I wanted to have that background. So yeah, I took a change.
Depending on what you need at the time, you want to be that.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. My star sign, if anyone follows that, is Gemini. So I think I have the right to chop and change. It's innate.
Gemini. I love Geminis. My husband is one. I have very good rapport with Geminis. My 3 best friends and my husband are all Gemini.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, the last question. What is your favorite way to get physical activity? Is it gym, outdoor sports, yoga, or something else?
Gym, definitely. That was an easy one for me. Yeah, didn't have to think about that one.
Yes.
Yeah, gym. I love it. And I love to go work out by myself. I zone out. It's physical exercise and it's like a mental inspirational as well. I put on something inspirational on my phone and I love it. I love that hour. It's so precious to me.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Melanie, for being with us today and for sharing your heartfelt stories and your wisdom. You know, your journey is so beautiful and it's a great reminder of the power of self-love and the limitless potential we all hold within us. For our listeners, if you have enjoyed this conversation, find more episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts. Until next time, take care and continue being your most authentic self.
Thank you for joining us today. If there's someone you know who could benefit from this conversation, please share this episode with them. Also, check out our website, beingmovement.com. You'll find valuable resources and links to connect to an engaging and wonderfully supportive community. Together, we can inspire and support each other on the path to a greater understanding of being. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.